The Kia Sportage, or Sportage, however you want to pronounce it, has always been somewhat of an interesting trendsetter in the compact crossover class. Now we've got the new model. It's got a new look, some new mechanicals, and some new features, and some feature deletions as well. Now let's take a look and see what they changed with the 2019 Sportage and see how it drives on the road. Kia didn't change too much with the design. Not that they actually had to, because the car they launched in 2015 was still pretty good looking. But what they did do for 2019 is update a few of the elements a little bit, like adding a bar here, changing some of the lights with the headlight, changing the wheels over here on the side, and the taillights. It's all a matter of adjustment when it comes to the look of the 2019 Sportage. The big change, actually, especially for this GT line version, is that they changed a lot of the lamps into LEDs. Actually, pretty much all the lamps outside are LEDs. But what they did remove, unlike before, was they removed the sunroof, which we actually kind of miss, because if you like driving around with a bit of sun in your hair, I guess, you will actually like the older version with the sunroof. This one, well, it's the classic metal roof. Now, it may look like Kia didn't change too much with the interior of the Sportage. And you're absolutely right. They didn't alter too much with the design, with the feel, with the look. But what they did change was in the functionality. In that department, they worked a lot in terms of making the Sportage feel a lot better and function a lot better. For example, this steering wheel. It's a nice sporty steering wheel with a GT line emblem, paddle shifters. It's got a new panels here on both sides, so it allows you to control a lot of the new functions as well. Now, what I really like is that it has a D-cut shape here, and guys, bigger guys would appreciate that touch, and it's also sporty as well. Now, one thing that I do like as well is this center panel. It's been completely revised. It's piano black, of course. It looks better, but the functionality is also improved, and the quality of the switches all feel a lot better. But my favorite feature, and one thing we pointed out with the older model, the 2017 GT line that we tested, was a lack of Bluetooth. Now, for an entry-grade vehicle, that's fine. But for a top-of-the-line GT line version, it's gonna be a problem, especially in the Philippines, where we passed a new law that penalizes you for making or taking calls or texting without any kind of hands-free system. Now they have it. Finally, it's an 8-inch touchscreen audio unit, and it also has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Now, I still haven't been able to get it to work on my Huawei, so I think I may have to do a bit of updating on Google Play, if I can. Now, one of the important reasons that the people buy the Kia Sportage is for space. Now, in the back seat, you've actually got plenty of leg room, plenty of knee room, and plenty of headroom, even if you're taller. Not that I would know. But in the very back, you've also got quite a bit of space. I mean, this thing right here, the opening is 40.5 inches wide. That means you can put quite a lot of stuff in there. And the dimensions here, even with the rear seats up, you've got enough space for maybe, well, actually probably 2 balikbayan boxes, which measure in at about 24 by 18 by 24. If you fold down the rear seats, then you've got massive room. And you can fit something as long as 65 inches into the back of this vehicle. That means it covers most of your typical mountain bikes, that kind of thing, if you want them to ride inside. Otherwise, we'd recommend you get a carrier for the back. Now, the engine of the 2019 Sportage is actually a carryover from the one they launched in 2015, meaning the pre-facelift model. It's a 2-liter turbo diesel, common rail direct injection, basically all of the technology that Kia has available to them at this time. But what they changed is the gearbox. It's no longer a 6-speed automatic. It's an 8-speed automatic. And it's got 185 metric horsepower to play with, along with 400 Newton meters of torque. And it's something you can put to use on an uphill like this. I mean, on a road like this, especially with a full complement of cargo and passengers, you'll like the fact that there's plenty of torque, very low in the rev range. So you can really pull up, easily climb any kind of incline available, or whatever is in your path. And it actually feels fairly smooth for a diesel. And diesels, because of the new 8-speed automatic, I suspect the shifting is a lot better than before. There's a big improvement. There should be a big improvement in fuel economy, which we'll try out a bit later. And overall, it's just a much more pleasant experience. It's kind of difficult to put the way the Kia Sportage rides, because there's the word I would use is that there's a certain European-ness about it. What does that mean? Well, if you've driven a BMW or an Audi or even a Mercedes, the smaller ones, the crossovers or even the small hatchbacks or sedans, you'll know what we mean in that there's a satisfying thud, a very different quality in the way it goes over bumps and imperfections on the road. Now, again, it's not perfect, but you just feel a little better. You feel a little more confident when you go over these kinds of surfaces. And that's what sets those cars apart. And I think they tried to emulate a bit of that with a Sportage, which I kind of like, especially when it comes to handling. I mean, it's quite satisfying to drive. I mean, you turn a corner, and it feels fairly flat. It doesn't feel like it's gonna get away with you from you if you're driving, faster, or if you like spirited handling or winding roads, that kind of thing. You'll actually enjoy the Sportage quite a bit on a winding road, which is a good thing. But there is a drawback though with having that kind of a suspension, and of course 19-inch wheels and tires, and that's the fact that it's not going to be as comfortable as some of the other offerings out there. The way I would characterize the ride over this surface is more of, it's firm, but it's fair. It's not going to overly be uncomfortable or anything like that, but it's managing it fairly well, which is good. I mean, ideally I would prefer a bit more handling from a vehicle, especially on the way my route is laid out every day, and I have to go through quite a winding road on a daily basis just to get home. So the Sportage fits that bill because I like to have a bit of fun when I'm going home or coming down, and this vehicle actually works for the way I drive. Now, some of you may prefer something else, and that's again perfectly fine. But it's a unique and different driving experience altogether compared to the rest out there. Some would have better handling and whatnot, but I like the combination of the 8-speed auto and the turbo diesel, which isn't offered in all too many vehicles in this category. The small 5-seater crossover class. What I really do miss, however, is the all-wheel drive. Now, a lot will argue that all-wheel drive is not that useful in the Philippines or our kinds of conditions, but I would disagree, because while in the city all-wheel drive is not practical or it's just it's unnecessary, but if you're driving into far distances around out of town and you encounter a slippery road or a blind corner catches you out, these things are better taken with the assurance that all-wheel drive gives. And unfortunately they deleted that for all models of the Sportage. It's kind of weird because the GT line used to have that, but now, well, no more. Like we said, they deleted the all-wheel drive system, but you don't really need that if you're doing everyday things with a Sportage in an urban area. What you really need is, maneuverability, which the Sportage has quite a bit of, because great visibility, you've got sensors front and back, you've got a rear view camera, so you won't have any problems, parking rear first into a slot in the mall, even though it's, could be very tight. But again, as an everyday vehicle, this thing just works, and it's quiet, it's smooth. You can hear a little bit of the engine coming through from the engine, but the actual sound of a diesel, it's still not as quiet as a gasoline engine. But where it does excel is in the fuel economy. Don't be surprised that, given the torque, the high torque of this model, along with the new gearbox, if you're getting somewhere around 11 to 13 kilometers per liter without even trying. And mind you, that's under conditions that are fairly moderate to almost heavy traffic, around 20 kilometers per hour. Of course, it can go down if traffic's a bit heavier, but if you try to be more, frugal with the way you apply the throttle, you can get quite a bit of good mileage from every liter of diesel fuel in this Sportage. That's something the gasoline engine versions simply cannot do. So, where do we stand with the 2019 Kia Sportage? Well, we like the look, that much is clear. We like how it feels, that's also pretty clear. And we do like the added functionality, especially with the audio system, and again, the overall feel of quality that the vehicle actually brings. But it does come at a price, literally, because this vehicle, it costs 1.82 million. Now, I don't know about you, but that's quite steep for a front-wheel drive, even though it's a turbo diesel. Now, I suspect it's not so much because of the actual pricing from abroad, but it's actually because of our tax laws. Because this vehicle falls under that kind of critical category where it's really affected by the new train law. Now, there are a lot of other variants with the Sportage that you can actually lose some of the features. And I think that would make a better value proposition. For this one, I still like the look, I still like everything about it, but it's just the price that's gonna be hard to get over. This is Vince Pornelos of AutoIndustriya.com, and if you like what we're doing here, subscribe to our YouTube page, like our Facebook page, and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram.